That's better. Greetings, everybody. My name is Rayvenwing, and welcome to episode 7 of the Desert City series. You know, sometimes when I'm stuck on a building project or can't quite find the motivation that I need, it can really help to just go exploring. I love wandering around a bit to find some structures and get some loot, and get my mind off of whatever I'm working on for a bit so that I can come back ready to make some progress. So, recharged and armed with a few more heavy cores and a brand new trident, let's finish up the green stick shop. Here I'm just adding some details to the farm building itself. I've noticed building with smooth sandstone tends to look pretty featureless. Just including some regular sandstone and some chiseled sandstone seems to help a lot, I've discovered, with making it look less like a giant featureless sandstone cube. I spent a fair amount of time on this front area because it's pretty blank, especially before I put the roof in. And I wanted to make it interesting. And one of the ways I decided to try to make it interesting was by adding a mural. Which, I will admit, I messed with the mural for a very long time and I'm still not 100% happy with it. I may go back and change it, I may keep it, it's still up in the air a little bit. But I do like to think that the owner of this shop is the type of person who, upon realizing that he wants a mural on his shop, he would go and find, like, some local kid who's interested in art and pay them to basically paint on a big wall and have a lot of fun with it. Maybe that's a smaller structure I could do later, is this local kid who kind of got their start with, like, a community-based project. Yeah, that's, I guess, a bit of lore, a bit of world building on that. Yeah, I messed with this mural for a while. I'm still a bit on the fence about it. I might change it in the future, but I got it to a point where I'm like, this works for now. Also, this episode ended up taking longer than expected. I think it was a combination of the motivation issues that I mentioned earlier and at the end of the last episode, and the fact that this had a lot more parts than I was expecting. With the overall farm structure built and the shop built, there were still just so many little details that I wanted to also add or change or mess with throughout the whole process, and each of those ended up taking a bit longer than expected, and then I had that longer than expected footage that I needed to edit down to fit into this episode in a way that I hoped would still be interesting, so it just ended up being a very lengthy process to get this one finished. So it is very busy. As in, I have a script in front of me that has it divided up into about 8 parts, not including the montage at the beginning. So this episode isn't necessarily hefty time-wise, because it's looking like it should land around 35-ish minutes, but it is full of a lot of stuff, and a lot of different processes that all kind of added up into what eventually becomes the Green Sticks shop. It was about here that I decided that I would be done for the day. I was pretty tired, so I logged off, only to sit in the menu for a couple of minutes thinking until I had a couple of ideas, and I wanted to try those ideas out just to experiment to see if they would work. So I immediately logged back on to work on it. Because before that I wasn't sure what to do with the roof. I really wasn't. I knew I kind of wanted to add a roof or some kind of detail on the upper part of the building, because otherwise it just looked so blank. But I didn't know what. And so my idea was inspired by a sunflower. I kind of had this thought of, because the whole shop has a lot of yellows and it has a lot of greens, that what if I did a sort of layered roof where each of the layers looks like a petal in a flower. I know that this isn't a flower shop, but I think of it as a very open and welcoming and sunshiny place. And I associated sunshine with sunflower, which is how I ended up here. So I did end up experimenting with it for quite a few more minutes. I was not logging out yet. But once I did have the idea at least down in some form, even if it wasn't perfect, then I decided that I would actually be done for the day. And here's the next day when I came back to finish the roof. So for the owner's house, I just kind of tucked it between the back of the shop and the wall of the city. I didn't film the entirety of this process because I wanted to get out of my head and let it just be built. But even though I didn't film any of the process of doing the interior itself, I did film a quick tour of both the interior of the home and the back of the shop, and even how the shop owner is able to access the products from the farm. Around here I just decided to add some mosaic slabs to the outer edges of the roof. I just thought it might add a bit of interest to the roof, just a break in the pattern of the bamboo, and even in my perspective, it almost looked just a tiny bit darker than the normal bamboo, so I almost wanted to use it like shading. I don't know if that worked, but I do think it looks at least a little bit better with the mosaic than without. Okay, with all the paths done, all that was really left was to throw in a few more details. I found a place to hide a spore blossom so that there could be some particle effects. It's just a couple of smaller things that I feel like helped to bring the build together and made it feel just that little bit more alive, a little bit more green, a little bit more vibrant. Also, I am thinking of doing some landscaping in the area eventually, maybe add some elevation so everything's not so flat, but I'm just not super sure how to do that until I have at least a couple more buildings in. So I will probably figure that out further down the line, maybe find a way to add some elevation to things so it's not just one surface. So yeah, that's the green stick shop. It is pretty much done as far as I'm concerned. Now there are some parts that are subject to change. I might change a few things, I might add a few things, I might take away a few things. I mentioned I'm still torn on the mural. There's a couple areas of the roof that I might continue to tweak or add in some minor plant life stuff. Or that might all have to wait until I add in the river. But ultimately, I think I'm pretty happy with this. It took a long time, but I'm pretty proud of how this turned out. Also, when I was cleaning up my chest monster for this project, I discovered that my storage system really is struggling. It could use some help. So I'm thinking that my storage will be the focus of the next episode. Now my voice is starting to give up on me, if you can't already tell. So I'm gonna sign off. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am looking forward to the next one, and I hope you are too. And I will see you next time. Bye!